I planned to leave her, but she refused to let me go. Imagine being trapped in a story where every move you make, every thought you have, is already known by someone else. What if the person you thought you controlled was controlling you all along? If you're ready for twists, mind games, and a love story like no other, stick around. And while you're here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. It means the world and helps us bring you more stories like this. 3 years into what I thought was my masterpiece of manipulation, I remained blissfully unaware of my wife's newfound ability to read minds. Oh, the irony of it all. Here I was playing the role of the possessive, controlling husband to perfection, deliberately driving a wedge between Selena and her first love, Ryan. Like broken mirrors, I would say with practiced cruelty, some things can never be mended. My performance was impeccable. The domineering spouse who would never consider divorce, the immovable obstacle in their path to happiness. But beneath this carefully constructed facade lurked a different truth. I desperately wanted her to leave me. Every night, I dreamed of the divorce settlement that would finally buy me that luxury yacht I'd been eyeing. A clean break, a wealthy man, freedom, the perfect plan. Yesterday should have been the crescendo of my performance. During filming, I accidentally held Ryan's head underwater just a few seconds too long. The horror in Selena's eyes as she rushed to save him, the way she cradled his head while racing to the hospital, everything followed the script I'd written in my mind. Today was supposed to be the final act. She would divorce me, throw her black credit card in my face, and demand I vanish from their lives forever. The thought of those astronomical figures made me laugh out loud as I stood in her office doorway, arms crossed, face twisted in manufactured arrogance. But something was wrong. Her expression remained unreadable as she looked up at me. Angry now, aren't you? I thought smugly. Go ahead, write those divorce papers. Throw that black card in my face. Instead, her response shattered my expectations. He's fine, she said with unnerving calm. Just a cold. Nothing some medicine won't fix. Her eyes held no trace of heartbreak, no hint of the devastation I'd carefully orchestrated. Confusion turned to fury, and I lashed out, destroying her favorite vase. Relying on that pathetic Ryan to steal my wife? I sneered, but my words fell flat against her tranquil demeanor. The silence that followed was deafening. Rather than anger, I saw something else in her eyes. Was that amusement? Don't worry, she said softly. I have no intention of divorcing you. My body went rigid. No divorce? Had I not been cruel enough? Impossible. I had followed every villainous beat to perfection. While I stood there, mind racing, she embraced me with unexpected warmth. Today marks our 3rd wedding anniversary, she whispered. I'll finish work early and come home for dinner. Inside, I screamed in silent torment. No, this wasn't how it was supposed to end. I wanted no anniversaries, no dinners, no pretense of love. I just wanted out. Little did I know that 3 years ago, when I thought I was cleverly inserting myself into Selena's life, I had actually stumbled into something far more complex. A cruel novel where I, the supposedly cunning manipulator, had become nothing more than the vile husband in her story. And she knew every thought in my head. Being the villain in someone else's love story wasn't my first career choice. My role was simple: make life hell for the male lead, Ryan, and obstruct true love's path at every turn. I initially balked at the assignment, but the promise of $1 billion breakup fee has a way of changing one's perspective. And so I threw myself into the role with surprising enthusiasm, becoming the perfect antagonist in their romantic drama. Everything ran like clockwork until 6 months ago. The car accident changed everything, but not in the way anyone expected. When Selena returned home from the hospital, she did something that sent my carefully constructed plan spiraling. She methodically destroyed every photograph of her and Ryan. When he returned from abroad, she treated him with an icy indifference that left me completely bewildered. Naturally, I assumed I wasn't being villainous enough, so I doubled down on my malicious behavior. I orchestrated Ryan's suffering with theatrical precision, but Selena remained unmoved. It was like watching a play where one actor had suddenly decided to perform from an entirely different script. Nothing made sense anymore. Honey? Selena's voice, sweet as poison, drifted through the bathroom door. You've been in there for an hour now. If you're not coming out, perhaps I should join you. I sank deeper into the bathtub, my thoughts churning like the cooling water around me. This wasn't right. Wasn't she supposed to be saving herself for Ryan? The events of the evening felt like scenes from someone else's story. The intimate candlelit dinner, her provocative costume that hit every one of my personal weaknesses, Despite her beauty being exactly my type, something felt terribly wrong. The script was being rewritten and I hadn't received the new pages. When I finally opened the door, trembling despite myself, she stepped forward with casual grace, her fingers trailing across my chest. Fury and confusion warred inside me as I silently cursed her ancestors. "What are you playing at, Selena?" As if on cue, her phone rang. Ryan's name flashing on the screen felt like a lifeline. I shoved her away, manufacturing the perfect display of jealous rage while internally breathing a sigh of relief. Why is he calling at this hour? What does he want? The words came out harsh, but inside, I was thanking Ryan for his impeccable timing. His voice crackled through the speaker, weak and plaintive. "Yen, I'm alone in the hospital. It's so lonely here. Could you visit tonight?" Her response could have frozen hell itself. "I'm busy tonight." The silence that followed spoke volumes about their deteriorating relationship. When Ryan finally spoke again, his voice was heavy with desperation. "Yen, I know you hate me. I was wrong to leave you for my studies abroad, but you're all I have left now." Standing there in the shadows, watching this drama unfold, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was no longer the villain of this story. I was becoming an unwitting pawn in a game I didn't understand, played by rules I couldn't see. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a small voice wondered, who was really pulling the strings? Selena's gaze met mine, and I quickly averted my eyes, feigning disinterest in Ryan's plea. But what happened next sent chills down my spine. "My husband might get jealous if I go out now," she told Ryan with deliberate sweetness. "If you're lonely, I can have some medical staff keep you company." Then, without warning, she rose on her tiptoes and sank her teeth into my neck. The pain drew an involuntary gasp from me, a sound that didn't escape Ryan's notice. "Yen, are you with Ethan right now?" His voice wavered with uncertainty. Selena's eyes locked onto mine, a knowing glint in them that made my skin crawl. I'm with my husband. Isn't that perfectly normal?" She paused, her tone shifting to ice. "Though Ryan, calling a married woman at this hour, Deb, that's rather inappropriate, don't you think?" "Yen, have you forgotten our promise?" Ryan's voice cracked with emotion, the kind that would move any man's heart. "You said you'd love only me for the rest of your life." But Selena cut through his sentimentality like a knife through silk. "Let the past stay in the past." The call ended with a decisive click. Terror and confusion warred within me. This wasn't how the story was supposed to unfold. They should be reconciling, joining forces to drive me away. Instead, I was watching their relationship crumble to dust, and somehow that terrified me more than any confrontation would have. My mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. "Selena," I ventured carefully, "aren't you going to visit Ryan at the hospital?" Her response was a practiced pout, but something in her eyes seemed to dance with hidden amusement. "You're my husband. Why would I go out with another man? From now on, I'll only love and listen to you." I smiled mechanically while my heart constricted. She moved toward me with feline grace, and I found myself retreating until my back hit the wall. The hunter and hunted, but I wasn't sure which was which anymore. "Husband," she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. "Shall we continue what we started earlier?" "Continue what exactly?" I managed to ask, my throat suddenly dry. This wasn't the Selena I knew, the ice queen who had spent 3 years beside me without a hint of desire. What had changed tonight? The moment I thought this, her expression shifted microscopically, as if responding to my unspoken question. "Why, the things married couples should do, of course," she purred, "so no one can call me cold anymore." I froze. If I hadn't memorized every line of the original script, I might have believed she could read my thoughts. The synchronicity was too perfect, too precise. "Honey," I deflected weakly, "didn't the doctor say you needed rest?" Standing there, trapped between the wall and my wife's inexplicable desire, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was no longer the puppet master in this play. Somewhere along the way, the strings had changed hands, and I was dancing to someone else's tune, someone who seemed to know my every move before I made it. "How are you feeling? Does it still hurt?" I forced a smile, desperately trying to redirect Selena's attention. My mind raced with possibilities. Could the car accident 6 months ago have altered her personality so dramatically? If so, perhaps when she fully recovered, the story would return to its proper course. The thought brought a momentary relief, but Selena seemed utterly disinterested in my concerned inquiries. Instead, she began unbuttoning her shirt, pressing herself against me with deliberate intent. "No, you really shouldn't," I yelped, backing away. "My back has been hurting lately. Can't handle any strenuous activities." Taking advantage of her brief surprise, I bolted for the bathroom like a cornered rabbit. That night, I lay awake, consumed by regret. Of all the times for my back to act up, it had to be when I finally had a chance with the female lead. The next morning, I emerged with dark circles shadowing my eyes. Selena took one look at me and frowned, warning me irritably not to let my thoughts wander before bed anymore. I nodded, mortified, unaware that she, too, had spent the night sleepless. The set brought its own theater of the absurd. Ryan appeared, coughing delicately into his hand, the very picture of tragic fragility. When the director suggested he rest at home, Ryan shook his head with noble determination. I can't let personal matters affect the entire crew. The director ate it up, praising his dedication with enthusiasm. Then Ryan turned to me, his whisper carrying just the right note of challenge. Mr. Ethan, don't go easy on me later, okay? I smirked, flexing my wrist with theatrical menace. The moment he delivered his line, I launched into my role, swinging for a devastating slap. But Ryan, ever the consummate actor, had already begun falling before my hand came within inches of his face. Ryan has fainted! The director's alarmed cry sent the crew rushing to his aid. Selena's gaze drifted our way, something unreadable in her expression. Just as someone reached for their phone to call an ambulance, Ryan miraculously regained consciousness. He touched his unmarked cheek, embodying the very essence of martyred forgiveness. Selena, please don't blame Ethan, he pleaded, his voice perfectly modulated for maximum effect. It wasn't his fault. I just wasn't being careful and fell. Unable to resist my own moment in the spotlight, I stepped forward with villainous flair. Oh, but it was no accident, I declared, savoring each word. That slap was merely a warning. Keep any impure thoughts about Selena to yourself, or next time. I let the threat hang in the air like cheap stage smoke. Throughout this entire performance, I couldn't shake the feeling that Selena was watching us both with barely concealed amusement, as if she were the only sane member of the audience at the world's most ridiculous play. Ryan nodded weakly, his face a masterpiece of pale resentment. I couldn't help but revel in my performance. Truly, I was playing the villain to perfection. Then came the splash of cold water, drenching both Ryan and me, shattering our theatrical moment. That scene was garbage! The director's voice cut through our stunned silence. Ethan's hand didn't even come close to Ryan's face. Both of you, back to your marks. We're doing this again. Selena stood watching, arms crossed, her voice dripping with dry amusement. Well, isn't this fascinating? The words hung in the air as Ryan and I stood there, our carefully orchestrated performance stripped bare. Everyone on set seemed to share her sentiment. Everyone except our oblivious director, who remained laser-focused on his vision. We shuffled back to our positions like scolded schoolboys, one scratching his head in embarrassment, the other too ashamed to look up. This time, when the cameras rolled, my hand connected with Ryan's face with unmistakable authenticity. The sharp crack echoed across the set, and his cheek bloomed red almost instantly. The shock in his eyes turned to genuine fury as he glared at me. I merely shrugged, thinking, blame your precious Selena for this one. Throughout the day, Ryan persisted in his pursuit of Selena, even going so far as to bribe the director with a substantial sum to add more romantic scenes between them. Meanwhile, I played my part perfectly, finding endless excuses to leave the set, giving the star-crossed lovers their space. That evening found me in a bar, several drinks deep and flirting shamelessly, when my agent's frantic call pierced my bubble of contentment. Ethan, what have you done now? I sobered up enough to check online, finding the morning slap had gone viral, edited, of course, to paint me in the worst possible light. I laughed it off, but my agent wasn't amused. Fine, if you're so clever, handle this yourself, she snapped. Don't come crying when you're blacklisted from the industry. I raised my glass to the empty air. When my career crashes and burns, I'll send you a thank you card with a nice fat check. The line went dead. Sitting there, I felt an unexpected wave of nostalgia wash over me. 3 years of playing the devoted husband, following Selena like a lovesick puppy to every variety show and public appearance. All that effort, all that careful image building just to reach this perfect moment of self-destruction. After all, wasn't that the ex-husband's destined role? To be dramatically expelled from the entertainment industry, clutching a billion-dollar consolation prize on the way out. But somewhere in the back of my wine-addled mind, a small voice whispered that perhaps I wasn't the only one following a script, and maybe, just maybe, someone else had started editing the story without my knowledge. The thought of my impending freedom sent me into peals of laughter as I scrolled through the comment section, each curse feeling like a blessing in disguise. Midnight found me stumbling out of a cab, courtesy of a concerned bartender. In some cosmic joke, Selena stood waiting at our building's entrance, her fury palpable as I emerged reeking of alcohol and bad decisions. "Don't tell me you've drunk yourself into this state over some online comments," she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. In my alcohol-soaked haze, I did something spectacularly stupid. I threw my arms around her and began to sob. "Why haven't you divorced me yet?" I wailed, filter completely gone. "My yacht, my billion, how much longer do I have to wait?" The words tumbled out like loose change, each one more damning than the last. Selena's hands gripped my shoulders, her knuckles white with tension. "Ethan," she ground out, "say that again. I dare you." But consciousness was already slipping away, leaving my confession hanging in the night air. Morning found me alone in an empty apartment. Rather than worry, I felt elated as I bounded out of bed, making a beeline for my computer. The comment section of yesterday's viral video had exploded overnight. Calls for my industry ban multiplied like bacteria in a petri dish. Perfect. Riding the wave of infamy, I logged into my social media accounts to pour more gasoline on the fire. "Yes." I slapped him intentionally. "What of it?" I typed with flourish. "Shouldn't Ryan be condemned for his inappropriate thoughts about my wife? Even if Selena doesn't truly love me, she's still mine. Next time, I won't be so gentle." Each post was more inflammatory than the last, crossing every line of public decency until even my long-suffering manager threw up her hands in defeat. Victory seemed within reach until my phone buzzed with an unexpected message from my manager, her tone suspiciously cheerful. Selena had defended me, publicly, complete with our marriage certificate posted online. I rushed to her profile only to be confronted by our wedding photo splashed across the screen. Below it, her words sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. "I am a married woman who loves her husband deeply. Mr. Ryan, please respect these boundaries." The internet exploded. This was the same woman who had once proclaimed her undying love for Ryan on national television, and now she was shutting him down so decisively. I stared at the screen in disbelief. This dramatic turn wasn't anywhere in my carefully memorized script. My trembling fingers dialed her number, but the phone just rang and rang, each unanswered tone mocking my increasingly desperate attempts to understand what game she was really playing. Somewhere between my drunken confession and this morning's social media earthquake, I had lost control of the narrative. And in the deafening silence of those unanswered calls, one terrifying thought began to take shape. What if I wasn't the only one who had been acting all... I clutched my documents like a lifeline as I burst into Selena's workplace. She merely raised an eyebrow at my dramatic entrance. "Husband, are you moved by my actions?" The casual question sent anger coursing through my veins. "Moved? I'm furious. I want to divorce you right now." I spat the words out. "How dare you go public with our relationship without consulting me?" Selena's smile remained gentle, almost patronizing. "What's wrong, husband? Isn't this exactly what you've always wanted?" The words caught in my throat like fish bones. True, I had said that, but only because the novel's script demanded it. She approached me with measured steps, reaching up to tenderly wipe the sweat from my forehead. "Ethan, since the day we became husband and wife, you've been the one making all the sacrifices. 3 long years." Her voice softened. "Even a heart of stone would be moved, so I promise you, from now on, my heart belongs only to you." I managed a smile that felt more like a death mask. Was fate mocking me? Had the universe itself decided to rewrite my carefully planned story? The moment shattered as commotion erupted outside. Ryan burst through the door like a storm, 2 apologetic security guards in his wake. "Miss Selena." We couldn't stop him. I caught Selena's glacial stare and quickly ushered the guards out, pulling the door almost shut behind me. But curiosity won out, and I left just enough space to witness the impending drama. "Selena, why won't you see me?" Ryan's voice carried the weight of betrayal. From my vantage point, I watched Selena maintain her Arctic composure. "Mr. Ryan, what brings you here?" I sighed from my hiding spot, wondering if her mind truly had been altered. Ryan's fist crashed against the table, the sound making me flinch. "Why are you doing this to me? Do you understand that these boundaries you're setting could destroy my career?" But Selena cut through his tirade like a blade through silk. "Mr. Ryan, if you hadn't paid for those fake reviews slandering my husband, I wouldn't have needed to take such drastic measures." Her voice carried a note of disappointment. "After all these years, why would you doubt me like this?" "It's that Ethan," Ryan protested, his denial fierce. "He's manipulating everything, driving us apart." Standing in the shadows, listening to this exchange, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was watching a play where someone had switched scripts halfway through, and I was the only actor who hadn't received the new pages. The irony of Ryan accusing me of manipulation when I could feel control slipping through my fingers like sand would have been amusing if it wasn't so terrifying. The mahogany door felt cool against my palm as I pressed my ear against it, my heart thundering in my chest. Selena's voice drifted through, clear and resolute. Everyone knows he's targeting me out of jealousy. Don't let him manipulate you. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. According to the script I knew by heart, the female lead had no reason to doubt the male lead, me. So why had the story suddenly veered off course? Through the crack in the door, my eyes fixed on a familiar black card, the very one that should have been hurled at my face, now floating down before Ryan like a fallen leaf. Selena's words cut through the air. This money should guarantee you a comfortable life abroad. Disappear from both mine and Ethan's lives. My mind reeled. These words, this scene, they were meant for me. The $1 billion card was supposed to be my reward, my compensation. Instead, it was being offered to my rival. Ryan's voice dripped with venom. Selena, you've truly disappointed me. As he turned to leave, he caught me eavesdropping, his eyes blazing with the intensity of molten steel locked onto mine. Who gave you the right to meddle with my woman? The words erupted from my chest before I could stop them. And who gave you the right to steal my love? A beat of silence, then Ryan's bitter laugh echoed through the hallway. Without breaking eye contact, he raised the black card and slowly, deliberately tore it in half. The sound of ripping plastic was deafening in the silence. My chest constricted as if someone had reached in and squeezed my heart. 3 years of dedication, of calculated moves and careful planning, all destroyed in one spiteful gesture by someone who couldn't appreciate its value. My hands trembled as I gathered the torn pieces, my voice barely a whisper. Can this still be used? Before I could process my loss, Ryan's fist connected with my jaw. Raw fury exploded between us. Our fight blazed through the building like wildfire, from the pristine upper floors down to the marble lobby, leaving destruction in our wake. The cost, Ryan's broken rib, and my fractured left arm. In the sterile quiet of the hospital, something shifted. Ryan watched Selena's unwavering devotion to my care, her gentle hands changing my bandages, her worried eyes never leaving my face. I saw the moment acceptance settled over him like a heavy blanket. But I wasn't finished. The day Ryan was discharged, I followed him to the parking lot, my arm still in its sling. Ryan, I called out, my voice steady. I think it's time we collaborated. A tired sigh escaped me. I'd believed following the script would be enough, that the story would unfold as planned, but sometimes you have to rewrite your own ending. Ryan needed connections. I needed capital. Our goals were complementary, not conflicting. Together, we might still salvage this mess. That night, as the city lights flickered like distant stars, Selena received a text message that made her blood run cold. Ryan and I had been kidnapped. The ransom? $1 billion. The exact amount that had been torn apart hours earlier. The abandoned warehouse smelled of rust and forgotten dreams. I reclined in a folding chair, deliberately taking slow, casual bites from a crisp apple while watching Ryan pace like a caged tiger. The hollow echo of his footsteps bounced off concrete walls, matching the rhythm of his growing anxiety. Has she agreed? Ryan's voice cracked slightly, betraying his composed exterior. I nodded, letting a confident smile play across my face. Don't worry. Selena's already on her way with the money. The juice from the apple dripped down my fingers. Sweet, like victory. Ryan's eyes narrowed, studying me like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Is this really going to work? A wry smile twisted my lips as I met his gaze. Do you have a better plan? Silence that followed was answered. I could read the conflict on his face, the desperate need to win Selena's heart warring with his instinctive distrust of me. But desperation had made him malleable, willing to dance to my tune. I finished the last bite of apple with deliberate slowness, then stood to pat his shoulder. The gesture was both reassuring and slightly condescending. Trust the plan. Selena will find her way back. Why? His voice was tight with suspicion. Why are you helping me? I laughed softly, the sound echoing in the empty space. I'm not helping anyone but myself. Scene shifted to the clifftop as night fell. The wind howled like a mournful ghost, whipping around us as Selena arrived, her silhouette illuminated by distant city lights. Her hands trembled as she held out the black card toward our kidnapper, a local actor I'd hired who was proving worth every penny. I brought the money, she called out, her voice steady despite her fear. Now let them go. I caught the actor's eye and gave an imperceptible nod. He snatched the card and delivered his lines with practiced minute. Miss Selena, the money's received, but here's the twist. You can first love, gesture, or sycophant. Chin jerk. 2 minutes to decide, or they both take a long fall. What did you say? Steel entered Selena's voice, making our actor falter. I cleared my throat quietly, prompting him back into character. This isn't a negotiation. Choose. 1 minute remained. Ryan stepped forward, and I had to admire his performance, the tremor in his voice, the noble sacrifice in his bearing. Selena, don't worry about me. Life without you, he paused for effect. It's meaningless. Just remember me when I'm gone. The actor nudged me, my cue to deliver a heart-rending plea. But as I opened my mouth, I saw something in Selena's eyes that stopped. Gaze kept returning, filled with an emotion I hadn't scripted. Fear gripped me, not of the cliff's edge, but of winning a game I'd meant to lose. Miss Selena, your decision? Our actor prompted. Both, she declared, taking a step forward. I want both. Before she could say more, before she could choose wrong, I took action. One step back, then another. I saw the horror dawn in her eyes as I gave her a sad smile and let myself fall backward into the darkness. Sometimes the best written scenes need a last-minute rewrite. The wind screamed past my ears as I plummeted, Selena's desperate cries fading into the roar of the fall. Icy seawater rushed into my nostrils, salt burning my throat, but I stayed calm. This was all part of the plan. With practiced movements, I untied the hidden rope and kicked toward the surface, letting the current carry me to shore. Sprawled on the beach, sand sticking to my wet clothes, I let out a triumphant laugh that echoed across the empty coastline. I won! Here's to luxury yachts and beautiful women. My voice carried the intoxicating taste of freedom. The next few months were a blur of extravagance, exactly the life I'd schemed for. My yacht cut through the Pacific waves like a diamond through silk, surrounded by beautiful women and endless champagne. Paradise, until the trembling voice of our former kidnapper shattered my peace. Mr. Ethan, please help. Miss Selena won't let me go. I barely glanced up from my champagne flute, sunlight dancing off the bubble. Relax. We're in the middle of the Pacific. Even Selena's reach has limit. The universe, it seemed, enjoyed proving me wrong. The yacht lurched violently, sending crystal glasses tumbling. A reef? I muttered, removing my designer sunglasses. The model beside me, her voice barely a whisper, pointed across the wave. Mr. Ethan, Miss Selena is here. There she stood on a rival yacht, her silhouette sharp against the horizon, eyes locked onto mine with predatory focus. Ice crawled down my spine. How had she found me? Had Ryan betrayed our plan, that spineless traitor? The next hours passed in a blur of rough hands and tense silence as Selena's men dragged me back to her estate. She didn't speak a word during the journey, her silence more terrifying than any raid. In her living room, shadows stretched long across expensive carpets as I pressed myself into a corner, mind racing through possible escape. Perhaps I could play the doppelganger card. Just a lookalike who happened to be enjoying his Pacific vacation. My dry tongue darted across cracked lips, but before I could speak, Selena's voice cut through the silence. Were you about to pretend you're not Ethan? My muscles locked in place. How? Her eyes bore into mine, unblinking. Since the car accident 6 months ago, I've been able to read your thought. Impossible. She had to be bluffing, playing mind games. She's delusional, I thought dismissively. The sharp crack of her hand against the table made me jump. Ethan, who are you calling delusional? Terror crawled up my throat as realization set in. Every failed plan, every thwarted scheme, it all made horrifying sense now. Her eyes never left mine, and in desperate panic, I filled my head with an endless chorus of barking dog. Woof, woof, woof. Anything to drown out my real thoughts. Looking back, perhaps jumping off that cliff hadn't been my smartest move after all. Selena's steps echoed softly as she approached, each click of her heels marking the shrinking distance between us until my back pressed against the cold wall. Her eyes held mine, filled with an emotion I couldn't quite read. Ethan, why have you deceived me all this time? Her voice was gentle, almost hurt. I gestured helplessly, trying to maintain my innocence. The script is clear. Ryan is your destined prince. I'm just a plot device, stepping stone. How could someone like me dare to steal the female lead from the male lead? Bit her lip, a gesture so human, it made my heart ache. I don't care if this is reality or fiction. My heart chose you. Ryan's coming, I warned, hearing footsteps approach. You shouldn't say such thing. As if summoned by his name, Ryan appeared in the doorway, his face ashen. In a flash of rage, he hurled a burning coal in my direction. Selena, please let me explain. This wasn't my scheme. Selena's lips curved into a sad smile. So I shouldn't blame you? You won't? Hope crept into Ryan's voice. She sighed, the sound heavy with years of buried truth. Ryan, why can't you see? Our story ended long ago. After the accident, I learned why you really went abroad. To chase another woman. I've already let go. No. Ryan's composure shattered. Selena, you're misunderstanding everything. No matter how many women exist, you're the only one in my heart. I did love you once, Ryan. Selena's voice was soft with memory. But that's in the past now. Please leave and don't return. My mind reeled. I had inadvertently caused the story's divergence from its prescribed path. The script was unraveling, yet the world hadn't collapsed. As this realization sent chills down my spine, Ryan left with one final ice-cold glare. I tried to slip away in the chaos, but Selena's arms caught me, her embrace both gentle and unbreakable. "Husband," she whispered, "in this lifetime, don't even think about escaping from me." Days turned to months, and I waited for the fictional world to dissolve around us. Instead, life moved forward. Selena left her entertainment career behind, and we sailed the Pacific on our yacht, creating our own story far from scripts and predetermined plots. Sometimes dark thoughts would creep in. What if I found a way to escape this world with our child, leaving Selena trapped in these pages? But before such thoughts could take root, her warm breath would tickle my neck, her words both promise and warning. "Don't worry, husband. Whatever world you flee to, I'll find my way to you." I turned to embrace her, finally understanding. The script I'd been so desperate to follow or subvert had never been the real story. This, her love, my surrender to it, our defiance of fictional boundaries. This was our true narrative. Perhaps I hadn't just become the male lead in my own story. Perhaps I'd become something far more important, myself.